Struggling with network chaos? Meet Auvik, your ultimate network management sidekick. Gain real-time visibility across every device and connection, automate troubleshooting, and slash downtime before users notice. Fix issues 50% faster with automated alerts, remote access, and traffic insights, all from a single dashboard. Join over 80,000 IT pros who trust Auvik to map networks in minutes, backup configurations hourly, and monitor 700 plus device types effortlessly. Start your 14-day free trial. No credit card needed. Control your network in 15 minutes. Visit itbusinesspodcast.com/Auvik now. See it, solve it, simplified. Hello, friends. Uncle Marv here with another episode of the IT Business Podcast, the show for IT professionals and managed service providers, where we try to help you run your business and do your jobs better, smarter, and faster. Today, we are continuing with our Auvik versus Domotz series, and today I have the Auvik team joining me to give their response to the first video that we did, probably some 10 days ago. Since you saw it. If you are here and you did not see that first video, well, the link will be below in the YouTube description. And if you're listening by audio, it will be in the show notes. And I know that some of you have already commented that it was probably the most boring battle royale that you have ever visited. And that was on purpose, folks. You heard me explain it if you listened to the show, or go back and see the show, listen to it, and you'll understand why. I wanted to give a very detailed description of each by asking the same questions to the MSPs that use them and getting their different responses. However, today we are going to get a direct response from people at Auvik and kind of get their feedback on how that went. And of course, they'll clear up any misconceptions or add to something that the MSP said. So with excuse me. This is live. That won't be edited. So joining me is going to be Steve Petryschuk from Auvik, and he is the Vice President of Product something. I didn't write his name down. And President Mark Rawls here. And gentlemen, welcome to the show. I apologize. I did not have my notes sitting right in front of me. But Steve, you're the Director of Product and Market Strategy. So sorry about that. And Mark Rawls, president there. Gentlemen, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, thank you, Marv. It's great to speak again.
Yes, Mark, I was going to tell everybody you and I visited, I forget which conference it was. I think it was
IT Nation Connect.
IT Nation Connect. There we go.
Yep.
All right. So gentlemen, let me go ahead and do this and start by asking, did you guys watch the previous show, and what are your initial thoughts?
Yeah, so definitely had to listen in as soon as we got the link and learned it was live. Wanted to hear not only Robinson Roca sort of represented Auvik, was super curious to hear what he had to say, but also want to hear from some legitimate Domotz users as well. We see them a lot within the MSP community, and so always interested to hear from both sides what the different solutions and tools help our MSP customers achieve.
Yeah, I would echo what Steve said, and just it's always interesting to see and hear from our partners how they're leveraging our solutions in order to serve their end clients, and leveraging solutions in general, right? In terms of network management, I think every interaction with one of our partners to me is a good one, because we always come away learning something about their business, about what they're seeing, what they're facing, the challenges they have, and that that in turn helps us better support them. So really enjoyed listening. It was both educational and then also it's always great to hear how our customers are getting value from the product.
All right. So let me start with the bad stuff first and just get that out of the way. Was there anything that was missaid or any misconceptions in either the way that I asked Robinson a question or in his response? Anything we need to clear up?
I don't think that there's anything specifically to clear up within Robinson's responses. One of the things that sort of stood out to me is the way he first described Auvik is exactly the way that we envision most of our partners leveraging it. And that was like the combination of the simplicity and the power, right? So the simple, out of the box, easy to use platform where he was describing any one of his clients can log in and leverage the platform, right? And leverage Auvik. But it's still for someone like Robinson himself, who is a network expert, has been doing this probably, since the day he was able to walk. He still finds so much value in it too, where it's, something that's useful for the network engineer persona who's been doing this their whole life. And it's this simple to use that extends network visibility to everyone. So I think it was more, reinforcement of sort of things that we've already done really well, rather than saying, hey, there's nothing that really surprised me about what Robinson shared.
Yeah.
One of the things that I noted when he started to share was the deployment options and the fact that you guys have multiple. So, there's the cloud-based version. You can actually use a virtual machine, Windows service on a regular server or desktop, and your ARM64 devices. So a lot of options.
Yeah, it's one thing that I would say, expanded on significantly since the really, really early days of Auvik. I've been with Auvik for almost a decade now, and I remember on the first calls that I was doing, it was, hey, we need to set up a VM, or sometimes there's a physical machine, and we spend so much time just like doing the basics of the install. But we've expanded our support so much over that time that now, like you said, it's Windows devices, physical hardware, Raspberry Pi devices. And not only that, but our deployment models actually allow you to start to share agents across different customer environments as well. So in some cases where MSPs have a central data center and they're looking to manage clients through VPN tunnels, or have a client with a local site and trying to manage multiple sites within one collector, like we have so much flexibility with our collector deployment options. It becomes really a differentiator for us in the space.
All right. So Mark, let me ask you
All right.
this. I don't know if it's a difficult question, but it's the one that I should probably ask in terms of, I did not ask Robinson or the other gentleman to, get too in specific, but normally when I have a vendor on, I'm going to ask the question is, what sets your product apart from your competitors?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think, well, Steve already mentioned, the both power and the simplicity. I think the other thing that both struck me while I was listening to it, and it's also something we take great pride in, is the fact that, when Robinson started using Auvik, again, his use cases, may not have been complex. His business was not as large. As he's grown over time, we've grown over time. And so, the fact that starting with an MSP that was much smaller has grown, by an order of magnitude. And yet, Auvik is still the right tool, and it's still the best tool, at least from his perspective and based on his use case. That's something that we're really proud of, and that's something we put a lot of stock in and a lot of focus on. And so, Steve's obviously on the product side of the house. I run all of go-to-market, so marketing, sales, customer success. And again, what we're always trying to do is work with our partners to figure out, how do we work with you to grow your business, to make you more successful? And that also means that we need to have, when we're talking to perhaps a smaller, newer MSP, we need to be able to meet them where they are right then. And that's true not just in the product, but also in the sales experience, the onboarding experience. But then partnering with them to help them grow their business, understand the value that we can bring in making them more successful. And then as they grow and as they add clients, then we're the tools there to support and scale with them, as is the training, in the overall partnership, the support model. And so that's really something we take a lot of pride in. And it's really cool to hear the story of someone who's been with us so long. And as his business has gotten more successful, more complex, we're still, one of his preferred vendors, and still have that great relationship.
Yeah. In terms of scalability, do you guys have a magic number that you go up to, or have you found out what that number is yet?
Yeah, it's definitely an area where we've put a lot of focus as an organization, say over the past 12 to 18 months. We see clients, end clients that are as small as a handful of users, up to end clients that are thousands of users. And so one of the areas where we're, for those that have been around Auvik for quite a while, have sort of seen our iterative investments over the past 12 to 18 months in some of these scalability initiatives. Like you can, scale up Auvik. We have partners managing thousands of end clients, with each one of those clients having thousands of end devices. And so it really just, we can scale to match sort of at any client. And we've worked a lot on that over the past year to make sure that that's true every area of the platform.
All right. Let's go ahead and talk about some of the, newest innovations and features and stuff. I know you guys just had a bunch of stuff announced in, what was it, March?
That's right. Yeah. So in March, we announced 3 things, and I can give the high level marketing speak, and I can turn to Steve to go into detail.
Okay.
We launched 3 things. So we've had in addition to, kind of our position within network management, several years ago, we launched a product in SaaS management. This is a company we acquired, SaaSlio. Again, another MSP first tool, designed for MSPs and for, something that we saw as another area of value for our partners to be able to expand their offering. We just released in March the SaaS operations, what we term kind of SaaS operations functionality, which not only now is one of our partners able to go to an end customer and help them understand licenses that are being used or not used, passwords that might be being reshared, et cetera. Now we're also able to automate the onboarding and offboarding. So saving, time and energy and effort, for the partner, as well as, again, improving the security posture of their customers, because someone who leaves the organization can get automatically offboarded and not have an account that lingers out there. So that's on the SaaS management side. We also had, releases around improved server monitoring functionality, and then also our endpoint network management functionality, which is a pretty, interesting differentiator in our environment, especially in our current hybrid environment, where we're able to really, understand the path all the way out to the endpoint, whether this is the CEO at a hotel at a beach resort somewhere who wants to know why he can't log on to a certain application, or why things are laggy or not performant. We're able to understand that entire path and isolate where the issue is, as opposed to just looking at the endpoint itself. And so it allows our partners to, again, add that added level of functionality and help them understand, okay, well, the Starbucks access point you're on looks like it's terrible, and so that appears to be your problem. It's not on your machine. It's not in your company network. But obviously, Steve can go into much more detail. But that's kind of the high level of those 3 releases.
All right. Well, Steve, before you get started,
Okay.
I do have something that popped up here that I wanted to ask about, and I want to do it before I forget. One of the things in here is the real-time diagnostics for Wi-Fi health. So I wanted to know if that was just purely internal, or, as Mark just mentioned, external. So that if somebody's sitting at a coffee shop complaining, are you really able to say it's the Starbucks Wi-Fi?
That's right. So that's really the focus for what we have sort of seen in the market, and what we've heard from a lot of our MSP partners, is what matters is the end client experience, that end user experience, right? They're in the business of wowing their customers, just like we're in the business of wowing our customers. And so when they get that call from the CEO in Starbucks or in the hotel, or I always hate picking on Starbucks because it's not just a Starbucks problem, it's in any public Wi-Fi.
It's just a coffee shop.
Yeah.
Right. The MSP, like the end client, doesn't care that they're in this, remote location, in this coffee shop. They just want to be productive. They just want to get their work done. And so MSPs are looking for more tools to help them support these users that are getting work done anywhere. And that's where all of our innovations that we announced back in March are really aligned, right? Whether it's network performance monitoring anywhere, SaaS application management discovery anywhere, it's all to support this user experience. So to directly answer your question, yeah, like we're getting visibility on the endpoint saying, hey, this is what the connectivity to that local access point looks like. This is what the connectivity over that WAN network, right? Is it the Starbucks, like the local the connection to the access point, or is it the ISP connection? Or is it the SaaS application that you're trying to access? Is it a Salesforce problem? Because that's a critical application for your business. And so now we're giving MSPs the insights to be able to say, yeah, like it looks like it's a Starbucks issue. Hey, I can't resolve that for you, but I have isolated it, and I can give you a path to resolution, which is, go back home onto your Wi-Fi or hotspot or something like that. They can't always, resolve the problem if they don't control the network, but they can at least wow their customer by answering that question, getting that visibility, and giving them a path to resolution.
Yeah, I'll help you by dropping another name. So I have a client that they go out to Publix, to do work there, and they would always call me and say, I can't get on. And I'm like, where are you? We're at Publix. And I'm trying to connect to the device. I'm like, listen, something's going on at Publix. I don't know what's going on. Turns out Publix was blocking a lot of their stuff. They had really locked down their environment. So get you there. Anything you want to piggyback on with what Mark said about the 3 announcements?
Yeah, I think we've sort of covered off pretty well. I think that's what an area of real differentiation for us, though, is where we're starting to combine these, our traditional network management solution that we're so well known for, and now sort of getting visibility into that network anywhere is really interesting, and really a common thread that we're seeing amongst all MSPs, where it's, hey, I may not have all remote users, I may not manage a fully remote workforce, but every business has some element of distributed workforce, whether it's that CEO traveling, the traveling sales reps. Even people moving from the lunchroom into their office, like all those can have a performance impact, and getting that visibility into networks anywhere is so critical. So that combining with sort of our SaaS ops and SaaS management story, we're really building out like a compelling value and a compelling use case around this end-to-end visibility between the endpoints that users are using to get their job done and those applications that they're critically reliant on. And so the more that you can bridge those stories together, the easier it's going to be for our MSP partners to troubleshoot these end client issues.
One question that I didn't ask you in terms of the actual logistics, even though agents can be installed on the 4 devices we talked about it, is there an agent that has to be deployed on endpoints so that if somebody is at, a coffee shop or something, is there an agent that gets installed on that so you can literally see it?
Yeah, good question. So taking a step back, we have a what we call the Auvik collector, which is that sort of thing that we roll out to do the network discovery. We don't actually have to put an agent on like a router, switch, firewall. It's an agentless discovery. It's just that one collector that can really manage thousands of devices across many networks. To get visibility into an endpoint anywhere, you really have to be on that endpoint. So we've made that process easy by partnering with a number of RMM vendors and basically roll out alongside that RMM, complementing them in the visibility that they just don't get today.
All right. And I do know that your collection, it's not necessarily based on SNMP, it's CDP and LLDP as well.
The technologies we use is pretty well everything, right? It could be an alphabet soup. So we use SNMP to collect CDP and LDP data. We also collect MAC forwarding tables and ARP entries, and like the list goes on and on. At the end of the day, it's like that ease of use layer that we add on top, right? You don't need to know the details of any of that. You need to plug in an SNMP credential and the rest just works.
Yeah, I know, but some of the people that listen and watch this show, they're pretty geeky and they'll ask those questions. So
that's right.
And then you also have over 60 pre-configured alerts, right?
Yeah, that's right. So sort of true to that out of the box experience, we're always looking to, a lot of the things that are important on customer 1 are also important on customer 2 and customer 3. And so the way that MSPs find scale and value in our product is by configuring it once globally for their organization. Hey, these are my policies around monitoring, client networks. These are my policies around tier 1 versus tier 2 clients, being able to define that globally and then have those alerts applied to every single one of their clients. So things like, internet connection is down or, CPU is pegged. Those are things that every client wants to, or like every client we need to monitor. So why am I going to be setting up that alert many times? We have those sort of built out of the box.
All right.
Yeah.
And can those alerts be set to different times? Because one of the things that when I started looking at network monitoring outside of my RMM was I wanted something quick because my RMM, I may not get an alert for 15 or 30 minutes if something was down. So how quickly can you set the alerts for Auvik?
Yeah, so there's a lot of flexibility in them. I think that the default settings are all around 5 minutes if it persists for about 5 minutes, but those are all configurable.
Okay.
Yeah. I think most go down to 1 minute if I recall correctly, but yeah, default 5. But yeah, we try to provide that high resolution, but not a device can drop and come back, and you don't want to trigger a false positive. So sometimes better to give it a little more time.
Okay. And let me go ahead and ask this question in terms of what would be, I guess, like a typical best practice or best case scenario for somebody to start with Auvik in terms of the environment. Because, we've got, listeners that are, small 1-2 man shops, and then we've got large MSPs. And one of the things I always tell them is make sure you have managed switches in your environments. But do you have any best, practice or best case scenarios on what people should have?
So I think Mark touched on that earlier, where we start with we meet MSPs where they're at, right? So for the partners who are just getting started, just getting their sort of feet wet in this, as long as you have a spot where you can deploy our collector and it can, discover those assets, really, any network is a good network for Auvik. Looks like my video is a little bit glitchy here. Hopefully it's okay. Any network is a good network for Auvik. Where you'll really start to drive value is when you get up into that dozen or so, 10, 15, 20 users, where you start to have, like you said, that managed equipment, right? Having a managed switch, having a managed firewall. And that's true of really any network management platform. As we think about whether it's Auvik or whether it's, our the other players in the market or our competition, they're all going to be looking for that sort of managed environment. And that's what I would strongly encourage the MSP starting out is, when you are coming into that business and you're taking on a client that maybe doesn't have the managed equipment, act as that strategic advisor and help them build a path to put in some managed infrastructure so that you can actually monitor it for them, right? The worst case is going to be when you're sitting in that seat, they call you up and say, hey, my network is broken or I can't connect. And there's nothing you can do to help them because you just have no visibility. So helping, like being that strategic advisor for them, getting in front of them will allow you to get more value out of the tools you have and will allow you to support that end user a lot better.
One of the sayings that I adopted a while back, it's like, if you can't see it, you can't manage it.
That's right.
That's the best thing to tell clients.
Yeah.
Mark, let me shift a little bit and ask you about the overall partner journey in terms of, what's your philosophy in working with partners? I know Robinson talked very highly of his interaction with you, but, from the time a person reaches out to try Auvik, become a partner, what can they expect?
Yeah. So someone who reaches out, let's say, they jump on our website and they sign up for a trial of the product. And we do no cost trials and they can run that, on their own. We don't recommend that. We love to engage to support, but that option does exist. If they do, choose to book and talk to some of our technical folks, we've got a sales team that all they do every day is talk to partners. And so they really understand the business model. They understand the needs, kind of speak the same language. And then we also have a really strong sales engineering team. And so anytime that we're reviewing deployments, if we're having difficulty with certain devices, getting the map to render a proper way, it works 99% of the time. But a lot of the value is, if you are coming into a new, one of our partners coming into a new client, there is some legacy hardware, something strange is out there, hey, let's grab a sales engineer who's probably seen this before. We can ensure the map, renders correctly. We can ensure you can manage that device correctly, walk them through both, the platform should work out of the box, and again, and will 99% of the time, but how do we get those corner cases and how do we understand, are we going to be able to help you, support 100% of your clients with 100% of their hardware? Like, let's really go down that path and investigate. We work through to the sales process. We've got a pricing model that's based on both, committed devices, but then the idea that, that the committed devices is just the foundation. That's kind of how we start our relationship. There's no punitive pricing for going over that committed devices. And in fact, we encourage customers to start, where they're most comfortable. And then as they grow, they start to add. Once you get to the point that maybe you're at, 2x, whatever you started with, then let's revisit and have a conversation and figure out how do we raise your committed level, drop your per device cost, improve your margins, right? As you've been more successful with Auvik and see a path to growth. And then we have, an onboarding team, again, that's very focused, has onboarded, literally thousands of partners and really understands what's the best practice. What's the best practice on how we deploy Auvik to you? What are the materials that our partners need to explain the offering to their end customer? And how should they think about, for example, updating their kind of bundle their packages that they put out to their customers? How do they change their pricing and think about what that pricing looks like? So these are all things that we walk through as part of that onboarding process. And then we've got an account manager that stays with that partner, over the years. And some of our account managers, again, have been with the same partners for years and years, that just continue to invest in how do we make you successful? How do I make sure that you understand the latest Auvik features? When we launch something like endpoint network monitoring, which might be, a per device, per endpoint added on cost, or when we launch something like last time I was on Marv, we talked about North Star, and the power of that North Star feature. That was just, hey, you now have this, you didn't have it before. Let me show you how you use it so you can make sure to get the most out of it. So that's kind of the life cycle. And then, as always, we're trying to really work with our partners and be flexible, and just, we understand the nature of the MSP business and how we need to work together with our partners.
All right. So I just made a note here. You said that you have situations where the same account managers worked with the same partners for years. Are you telling me that your account managers stay? You're not doing churn like everybody else?
They do. As we've grown, we obviously add new folks to the team, but we do have a really good core. I would say, Auvik has a really strong internal culture. If you go to our website, there's a lot of messaging around like our values, the Auvik values, things like wow our customers, no assholes, shit happens, right? Like it's a very understanding culture. It's a relaxed culture, but one that's very customer centric and customer focused and partner focused. And so a lot of the folks like Steve have been here, over a decade. We celebrated anniversaries the other day, and we had so many that were 10 years, 9 years, 8 years, 5 years. And then, next month I'll get to celebrate 1 year. But it's a lot of, there's a lot of long tenure here because of just the nature of the company and the fact that it really is a great place to work.
Right. You guys started in 2011. Is there anybody that's been there the entire time? Like, is it a handful or is there a bunch?
So I mean, if you go back to the early days, we still have our co-founder, Alex
Right.
Hoff, still joins as a chief strategy officer. And some of our early employees have moved into some senior leadership roles.
Mhm.
A lot of the development team is even still around from the early days. And so there's definitely, I would say the go-to-market area, like our sales, customer success, support, those are all areas that grow over a function of time. And so a lot of people get added as the business grows, but there's definitely a lot of examples that have been here just from the beginning. I won't drop too many names.
Yeah, I think our head of revenue ops, I think, Steve, you were telling me he was like employee number 5.
Yeah.
So we got a lot of long tenure and a lot of folks who have worn a bunch of different hats.
Okay. I want to go back to one thing on the pricing. You mentioned the committed devices. So one of the questions that comes up a lot of times with network monitoring is devices that pop on and pop off the network. Maybe one time some of us are maybe monitoring VLANs, which would include, guest Wi-Fi or private Wi-Fi or something. And so there are devices that they may just pop on one time. I work with law firms where, a court reporter comes in and they'll be detected, but I don't want to count them because they're not going to be back for 6 months or a year or maybe never. How does that work in terms of devices coming on and off the network?
I think that's one of the beauties of the Auvik pricing models, that we really only focus in on things that aren't really changing all that often. Routers, switches, firewalls, and physical wireless controllers, with a couple of those add-ons for the newer capabilities that Mark mentioned. But as we look at these assets, like I'm not adding and removing a switch over one day. I add a switch maybe as the end client grows, but it's not that same problem of, hey, I have lawyers' devices popping on the network and then popping off. Those core assets that we build on are pretty stable, so it allows a lot more predictability for our partners. Well, it sometimes is a little bit more difficult to say, like, how many routers, firewalls, and switches do I have? Well, first, we talked about visibility earlier. You need to know the answer to that question, so we'll help you find that out. But it is a very stable number, and it is very predictable that way.
All right. So let me now give you the opportunity, since I've been asking all the questions. Is there anything that you guys want to bring up that maybe I thought not to ask or was outside of what I asked?
I think there's one thing that Robinson was speaking about when he was doing his recording that really stuck with me, that I think is worthwhile. And there was a story he shared about using our traffic insights feature to help troubleshoot why a customer's network was slow. And I thought that was a really interesting story, in an area where we see a lot of that throughout our different client base. It's not just like, hey, tell me if the network's up or if it's down. It's like, actually tell me what's going on. Tell me what's happening. Right. And so you're seeing some of that with, like, our SaaS discovery and SaaS ops product is now like showing me what applications people are using. And then with our Auvik traffic insights is show me what applications are traversing the network. How is that network actually being used? And that's a really unique visibility for us to be able to see, using Auvik traffic insights, exactly, what types of traffic there are and how it's really useful to help accelerate that troubleshooting flow. And that was a great story that Robinson shared. I think it was worth reinforcing here, that sort of visibility is something that a lot of our clients look for, so they can better serve their end clients as well.
Yeah,
Anything to add, Mark?
well said. And yeah, I don't have anything to add to that.
Okay. Well, maybe I'll ask you this off the wall question in terms of a battle royale. So it's taken me a long time to get two vendors to agree to do this because so I want to make sure I say thank you.
Oh no.
Yeah,
and we're still recording.
I know, but well, thank you, Steve, for participating.
I'm in suspense of the question.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the way to say thank you, isn't it?
There we go. We kept going.
Okay. But I do want to say thank you, first of all, for agreeing to do this. It was greatly appreciated. I hope that I made it something that you guys, can appreciate and we'll be able to use. Any thoughts or comments on a way to do this better the next time?
I think one of the great things about the MSP community is that we're all very connected, very collaborative, and one of the things that I like about this kind of format is that we both have an opportunity to showcase what's great about Auvik, and our competition gets the same opportunity to showcase what's great about them. At the end of the day, we're both going to do what we can to serve all of our customers better. But the format of showcasing, hey, here's real customers, real partners leveraging our technology to help serve their customers, to help grow their business. Like, that's a really strong story to tell. I don't know how much I would change about it. I enjoyed listening to both Robinson as well as I'm forgetting the other gentleman's name. I think it was Darcy, I believe.
Yep, Darcy Wilson.
Yeah, it was great to hear them both sort of share their stories. And how much overlap there is, but also where there's some areas that I can clearly see Auvik shining from here.
Yeah, and I'd echo that. I mean, I love a good roundtable, and I think there's a lot of venues where we are able to get partners together on roundtables and hear partners talk about the MSP business. I think what differentiated this is also the ability to deep dive into the tools themselves, and you can't do that as well with a roundtable. I don't think it lends itself to that. So I really enjoyed the format and found it informative. So thank you for pulling it together.
All right. Well, thank you for doing it. And I want to obviously thank the people in the background that helped to do this. I'll say her name. I'll just say Molly. Basically helped spearhead a lot of stuff. Pointed out some issues that we may have had in the previous show, but has stuck with us here. And I certainly do appreciate, and I appreciate Robinson coming on your behalf and speaking for you. And we'll do some sort of final show after all this is done and talk more about you guys. And I will say this, I know that one thing I can do on the website is track how many people have been clicking the link, and you guys have a lot of traction. Let's say that.
Awesome. We look forward to welcoming the new Auvik partners.
Okay. All right. That is going to do it, folks. Thank you to Mark and Steve for coming on. And of course, we were talking about Auvik, and I have a little prepared statement I'll sign us off with here. Auvik has established itself as a leading provider of cloud-based network monitoring solutions specifically designed for managed service providers, combining automated discovery, real-time alerting, and comprehensive visualization tools. Auvik enables MSPs to I cannot say that word, so I'll say this. Auvik enables MSPs to efficiently manage client networks while increasing operational efficiency and profitability. And I do want to say thank you guys for coming out and coming on. That's going to do it, folks. We will be back with a response from Domotz and then my final thoughts as we wrap up this. But thank you all, and we'll see you next time. And until then, holla.